The Kings are terrible. Sacramento is the 12th seed at 13 and 18, 3 games back of the plan, and have lost their last 5. Head coach Mike Brown has been fired as a scapegoat, just months after signing a long-term deal. They cannot close games and have the most clutch losses, consistently blowing leads. This team lacks any sort of accountability, and through all the talent, they do not have a leader. The mid-three of Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan is not working. Sacramento has nowhere to go and look nowhere close to a postseason team. With De'Aaron Fox trade rumors increasing by the day, the Kings need to get out before it's too early and blow this team up. Mike Brown was just fired yesterday, and this was a terrible move. He was a unanimous coach of the year just around 500 days ago, and while he has had some bad coaching moves, something we'll talk about more later in this video, he's being used as just a scapegoat for the team. There are blatant problems with the roster, and firing the only vocal person in the locker room will lead to, somehow, even less accountability being taken. The Kings are also horrendous in the clutch. With a record of 6 and 13, they rank third last, with only the 7-win Raptors and Jazz being worse. They're letting up threes at the 6th highest rate in the clutch, and their defensive rating is also 6th worst. Though their offense has been solid down the stretch, they cannot prevent a bucket. Specifically, the last few games have been a complete disaster. In Denver, the Kings led by 8 with less than 4 minutes to go, and even 6 with 2.5 left. But Fox and DeMar went cold for a stretch, and the Nuggets scored on their last 9 possessions, aside from a full court heave to waste clock. He had 9 straight trips to close the game where Denver scored. With 21 points in the final 4 minutes, the Kings got within 3 of the Lakers in their next game before finishing the game with 4 turnovers and shooting 40% as LA went on a 20-10 run. The Lakers would match up against Sacramento again, where the Kings even clawed back in the 4th, but Rui Hachimura out-rebounded Domantas Sabonis to ice the game. The Kings would then get blown out in the 4th, 35-17, despite trailing by just 9 entering the final quarter against former King Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. Then the worst choke of the season yet for Sacramento that pretty much made the Mike Brown firing official. A game they led by nearly 20 at some point and were even up 10 with less than 3 minutes left, but a complete choke and defensive miscue from their star De'Aaron Fox led to an insane comeback for the Detroit Pistons. Maybe the worst part was Fox's reaction in the press conference.
De'Aaron, what did you see on the final play with the corner 3 from Jaden Ivey there?
It doesn't really matter. It's not gonna make anybody feel better, so.
Absolutely zero accountability from their franchise player and the guy that should be the leader of the team, and former head coach Mike Brown was furious.
If you're up 3, you gotta guard your man at the 3-point line, and there should be no closeout opportunity. We told our guys, can't give up a 3, can't give up a 3, can't give up a 3, and we close out and we foul with 3 seconds to go. And to relax like that at that point in the game was tough.
This loss was embarrassing, with Sacramento favored by 5.5 entering the game, and was the result that dropped them to 2.5 games back of the Spurs, who are the 10th seed, a team that won just 22 games the last 2 years, and was unanimously picked to be way worse than Sacramento, with ESPN even projecting the Kings to win 11.5 more games. Statistically, they shouldn't be this bad. They have the 8th best offensive rating, 16th best defensive rating, and 14th net rating. That isn't great by any means, especially in an ultra-competitive Western Conference, but it also ranks 9th in net rating just among Western teams, higher than the Suns, Spurs, and Lakers, all squads that are 500 or better. Their true shooting percentage is 12th, tied for 10th in points per game, and 17th in opponents' points per games. Again, that really isn't that bad. Not good in a tough West, but not bad, and definitely not enough to explain why they are 12th and 5 games below 500, but looking at their plus-minus throughout each quarter, it draws us closer to what we already know. Sacramento doesn't get off to the best starts, as a minus 21 in the first quarter, before recovering as a plus 39 in the second and plus 38 in the third. In the final 12 minutes, the Kings are 18th at negative 22. Now, all of those previous team stats may be biased towards the blowouts, as in the Kings' 13 wins, they have won with an average margin of 14.1 points, including 5 of those being by 15 or more, with just 3 being within 5. If they win a game, it's going to be a blowout. But in their 18 losses, they lose by an average of 8.2 points. Their 13 wins have a larger total plus gap than their 18 losses, and it's not even close. 11 of their losses have come within 5, and they have just 4 blowout losses. Now, usually this seems like a thing that teams could come back from, as it's just close losses. They are a good basketball team, right? Well, it's actually way deeper than that. The internal issues of this team are a huge problem, as they don't really have a leader. As we saw in the press conference, De'Aaron Fox, this team's number 1, took no accountability, despite being a couple of losing plays. Like, a lot of the losses, especially the last one, is on De'Aaron Fox. That play on Jaden Ivey is unacceptable, and he's not vocal enough either, which becomes an even bigger problem when no player on the team is that guy. Fox or Sabonis won't speak up. DeMar is new and not that type of guy, and they don't have a leader as a role player, so it's just kind of a trickling down effect that continues to get worse and worse, which left it to the former coach Mike Brown, which just isn't good enough. You need a player to be vocal. And even that coaching of Mike Brown has been bad. Keon Ellis has been the best defender on a Kings team with a slightly below average defense. He's the definition of a dog, keeping up with defenders on the perimeter and important to a middling squad like Sacramento. Despite all of that, there have been games this year where fans chanted to put him in, but got a DNP. Because of who? Because of Doug McDermott. He's averaging less than 20 minutes a game, with Trey Lyles just 0.1 minutes behind him. Yet Trey Lyles is like 6 seconds a game playing less than probably the most important defensive player and role player on this team. The roster construction of this team just sucks. While the rest of the Western Conference continued to get better, especially across the 2023 offseason, the Kings didn't. And this year, they made a lateral move, as getting DeMar instead of Harrison Barnes does sound great on paper, but absolutely killed the three-point shooting, as the Kings convert them at just a 34.2% rate, 24th best in the league. Yeah, that's 7th worst. And the shooting gets especially worse when Keegan Murray, a once very encouraging piece, has turned into a defensive stalwart, but pretty much regressed offensively. The entire team is lacking depth, as Kevin Huerter and Trey Lyles have sucked, and Doug McDermott, Jordan McLaughlin, and Alex Len are getting actual minutes. Even near the top, this team just doesn't make sense, as Sacramento lacked the actual 1A needed to compete, as Fox and Sabonis are very clearly not even top 15 players, and most of the time you need a top 5 or even top 3 player to even win a championship. Now, star De'Aaron Fox is also in a ton of trade rumors, and the noise is increasing by the day, and with his attitude towards the team, it wouldn't be shocking to see him traded. What can they even do? With the firing of Mike Brown, it doesn't look like the front office will change anything. Maybe expecting that firing to randomly make this disaster work, and they would be wrong. With DeMar DeRozan aging at 35 years old and under contract for another 2.5 seasons, this situation could get very rough very fast. The Kings have clearly reached their peak under this core of Fox and Sabonis, with a first-round loss to Golden State being the furthest they will ever go. Maybe they can sneak another playoff appearance in the next few years, but will mess up their future even more. Another terrifying possibility is the front office trading Fox in a lateral move, trading for a guy like Jimmy Butler that will do nothing but go even further into mediocrity with this team. A complete rebuild is the best possibility, with encouraging assets in Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan, who are probably at the highest value they will ever be, could set the Kings up with a very bright future. But with Monte McNair, expect the absolute worst. He's a terrible manager, and this team might be screwed for the future.